Hello everyone, and welcome to another beer review. Although this week it's more of a comparison, because we've got a couple of, we've had a couple of nice bitters in the past, and I've already shared some away and things like that, and I've still got kept a wee couple of bottles for myself. And I thought, well, let's compare some of them, because two of them were actually quite good bitters, and I just already kind of see where they are. And there is a third one, just because I had it left over, because I'll be honest, no other bastard wanted it, I'll be totally honest, and I can't blame them. But this one is an occasional one that's brought out by the brewery, and they usually put a lot of hype round about it when they do it, because they only do it every couple of years and things like that. And a lot of people, you read in the comments, especially on social media like Facebook and all that, when they're advertising it, oh, it's wonderful, it's great and everything else. And I found it just lacking and overhyped, and I just didn't really see the point of it when you had their kind of main kind of sister beer that's basically made, you know, day in, day out and available all over the country. I think, well, what's really the point of this? I could understand if it was something special, but for me it just wasn't. So I just want to kind of see where that is. Maybe I've missed the point somewhere, and if I put it, you know, against what I class as better kind of company, then does it actually improve, or does it really stand out just to be the kind of weak and kind of bland beer that I kind of originally thought it was? So this might be interesting for you, but it's also kind of interesting to me, because it also kind of helps to kind of reconfirm what I initially thought when I did my original reviews. And I'll put the details and the links below of the videos individually, and you can always go back and watch them and suffer them again if you're nuts. So one of the ones we are going to do is Longman's Best Bitter, which was kindly donated by John Morris, you know, the lycra-clad deviant that he is. The next one is Holden's Black Country Bitter. Again, I don't know why I do it, because it's Holden's, it's fucking Black Country, you know what I mean? It's like Arcady sin, but we've all done all that in the previous review, so don't insult the poor people of the Midlands with more of this. And the last one, which I just thought was just overhyped and just was the Chiswick Bitter. That only comes out every few years, and they make a big guffaw and big hoo-ha about it all coming out. On social media, and all the wank festers come out. Oh, it's brilliant! Oh, I love this! Oh, I've got to get my order in. Yeah, it's not even on sale yet, so don't talk shit. You know, they're just saying it's coming out. They haven't even taken orders yet, but you're claiming you've already got your order in because you're just a twat. So yeah, I did find this particularly wonderful, and I couldn't really understand what was the reason of it, because at the end of the day, although London, what the fuck was that? Is it? Oh, bollocks, hold on. Bastard, that's why he's flip-flops, you know what I mean? She left her ginger nuts over there. She's not getting into ginger nuts, you know. It's taken her long enough. Christ, I've been married to her for God knows how long. And if you think that's a euphemism, then you're absolutely right. Anyway, no, with this one I just thought, well, London Pride is a little bit more alcohol than this one. It's maybe about a percentage more. It's a 3.4. London Pride is roughly about 4.5, just slightly above that. And I just couldn't understand why this exists when you've got London Pride, who seems to be more flavour, more character. I'm not saying it's a wonderful beer, London Pride, but it's better than this. So I think, well, why put a beer that's not as good as the one you have that you make every day of the week? So anyway, oh, seriously, I'm losing weight, so I've been losing weight. My manties are getting bigger though. I don't know how that works out. I don't know. Manties get bigger, I lose weight. Maybe manties weigh less than fat. I don't know. Anyway, just a strange thing out there. But anyway, shall we crack these open and see where we are? Right, so what we do is we'll put the dodgy one at the end. We'll start off with Longman's, Holden's, and then the Green Goddess at the back end there. La-dee-da. And the oldest boy, he goes back to Russia this week, and I have the honour and the pleasure of taking him to the airport. And the wife says, well, you want to run to the airport? Oh, okay. She says, but it's really early in the morning. I says, that's fine, not a problem, you know what I mean? I don't think I'd be able to sleep anyway. Anyway, I can't really say too much because his gran watches these videos, so I can't say what I really want to say because it might upset her. So I'll be in my best behaviour for once. But yes, he's going back there because he's had enough of the UK, which I don't blame him from that point of view. I think quite a lot of people in the UK in its present guise have probably had enough of it. You know, it's not particularly enjoyable in quite a lot of ways. And yeah, it's just kind of disappointing. Interesting, just with the first two pours, quite an interesting change in the colour. So there is, because that was the Black Country. I can't say country without sounding like somebody from the West Country. You know what I mean? Don't make no never mind, and all that kind of stuff. But yes, to cover it is this is a Longmans, and it's 4%, 500ml bottle. This is Holden's. I think it's 3.9%. Yes, it is. It's a 500ml bottle. You know, so you can see the difference. Ta-ta! Oh, there we go. Yeah. So, just shows you where they're coming from, doesn't it? Just shows you not all bitters are the same. And this is what I'm trying to get across, that, you know, here's the Green Goddess. So yeah, so he's had enough, so he's going back to Russia to live. I don't know for how long, so he's going to stay with his gran. Hi Natalia. Привет. That's his gran, by the way. I was just talking to, you know, to a stranger. You know what I mean? And yeah, and that's kind of in between, because that against the Holdens, against the Longmans. So there you go. And the Chiswick Bitter, the Green Goddess, is 3.4%. It comes in a 500ml bottle. All prices and Willie Pish will be put down below. But yeah, so he's going to go in there and that type of stuff. So so unfortunately he's come up here to kind of drop off some of the stuff he just wants to kind of put in storage and that type of stuff, you know, like old clothes, or as I call wank rags. You know, so he's dumping all his stuff that he doesn't want. He sold a lot of his stuff because he was living in Liverpool for a while, and now he's basically going to be heading out to Russia. So he's dumping all the stuff that he wants to keep, or stuff that he couldn't sell. You want that? What is it? It's a half-eaten chocolate, but aye, fuck it, just chuck it with the rest, you know. You know, that kind of stuff. So yeah, can we see what they smell like? Again, this one's always kind of slightly lacking, and all you just get is some kind of malt. Don't really get any hops. Just get kind of light malty toads. By the way, if you weren't sure about that was a... Oh God. Because they called the bloody thing again Longman. I was going to say Long John. I don't know why. I was getting mixed between the person that basically donated it and my underwear. Now this has a little bit more, slightly, smells kind of slightly more toasted, malty, and a bit of kind of brown bread toasted, slight toasted kind of smell. And this one, which is the Green Goddess, doesn't really smell of anything at all. Kind of goes with the taste, what I found. So yeah, Holden's got a slightly kind of that's unbelievable how there's no smell there. Yeah, Holden's got a slightly toasted kind of maltiness to it. Right. What we'll do is, I'm going to start off with the Green Goddess first. It's the lowest alcohol, so I thought I'll give it a chance. I'll go with that first, so there's not another thing that's going to kind of affect it. first thing I get this kind of slight texture and sensation of syrup from the Chiswick bitter. It does feel that there's additional sugars added to it. Just with the mouthfeel, some of the flavour profiles and everything else, I just get this slightly sugar cane kind of vibe. Very similar to the Glenlivet Caribbean Cask or Caribbean Reserve, whatever it's called. Caribbean Reserve whiskey. It's made from sugar cane, and you get kind of sugar cane kind of tones, and I'm getting a little bit of that in there, you know. And if you're wondering what do you mean by kind of sugar cane tones, is kind of golden syrupy tones. And they call it a hoppy beer, but it's so light at the back end. I mean, seriously, it finishes like a lager. There's nothing really distinctively hoppy beer. That's what it says on it, see? And it's just not. It's kind of lacking. Right. People say, oh, you could have a drink of water to kind of clean the palate. And I could lick the wall and clean the palate. What's the point, Colin? You know, at the end of the day, you know. If you go from one beer to another beer in a pub, do you sit there and think, can I have a glass of water, Barman, first before I start this second beer? You know, because they clean the palate. Fuck off, would be the reply. You know, nonsense. So no, you would just transfer between the two and everything else, just like what you do in the pub. And this is what I'm going to do, because this is what normal people do. You know, we go to the pub. Oh, I'll have one of them. Where else you go? Oh right, I'll try one of them after. You know, and you just do. You just, well, yeah, I'll have that one then and try that, and yeah, no cleaning the palate, and just let that one settle, you know. This is real world stuff, you know, not Ponzi stuff. Straight away with the Holdens, get more malt, a little bit more hops, no, quite a bit more hops than that, because you just got no hop flavour at all, really. And a bit of bitterness at the back end. And yeah, it's quite nice. It does feel kind of similar body wise, that they're both, obviously you can see the colours are quite close. This is the Holdens, this is the colours are fairly kind of close, and they do feel slightly on the lighter end. But yeah, the Holdens is an improvement. Nice mouthfeel. Well, yeah, overall I would say that's just a nice sessionable bitter with a nice bit of bitterness at the back end. Again, not overly bitter, not huge bitter, but there's still a bit of bitter there. So quite nice. I was thinking, I've got a couple of obviously Wednesday videos coming up there, but I've got a Wednesday video that I'm going to do. I haven't done it yet. And I'm just going to do a mix video. It's me basically taking a mild and a bitter and mixing them. And because it's a more of a kind of tradition, and especially around about that area, because I'm going to take two Holdens products and mix them together just like you used to do. So you'd have a bitter and mild mix, which was very kind of popular around the kind of the Midlands, and also getting into the kind of Yorkshire areas and things like that. So I'm going to do a Wednesday video just kind of mixing them and just kind of show you what it tastes like, or let you know what it tastes like, and kind of, and a wee bit of nostalgia and everything else. And the good thing is I won't need whiskey for that one, because I know it'll be an enjoyable beer. So again, it's just nice to kind of get away from the whiskey, because I feel like, because some of the beers are getting so bad in the Wednesday videos that it just feels like it's more of a fucking whiskey video sometimes. The whiskey's taking over because the beer's so fucking shit, and I'm kind of annoyed with that, you know. It's bugging me, you know what I mean? So I don't want you kind of do that. So I thought that'd be a good idea, just to kind of break it up. And it also uses up some of the additional bottles that I've got that I'm not drinking so much, because this is one of the things, is that's one of the reasons why I've lost weight, is because of not drinking so much beer. So really what I'm actually doing, apart from our trip to Copenhagen, is I'm really only drinking beer as part of the videos. I'm not drinking beer outside the videos, which I wasn't really drinking that much beer outside the videos anyway, but I'd have some on a Sunday or something like that, you know, a couple on a Sunday if I'm watching the football or something like that, or maybe a couple on a Saturday night. Again, just watching the kind of football and maybe watching a movie or something like that. So I've cut all that out. So again, and so I'm really not drinking that much, you know, per week at all, really. I mean, this counts as 3. So this will be the 3 for this week. So there you go, this is 3 beers. Although in saying that, there's a good chance it's going to be 2 beers, because I don't know if I'll finish this one. That's the Green Goddess, by the way. Right, so we get on to the Longmans. I was always going to call it Long John. Going to sort myself out, but I'm getting old. Just getting old, and you know what I mean? A lot more going on with the Longmans bitter. A lot more malt, and a richer malt flavour as well, but you can tell that by the colour, you know, from that point of view. So it's still very drinkable, very sessionable, but there is a difference between that and that. Holden's, Longmans. This one, it just doesn't even rest. It's not in the same planet as this one. This one is just completely lacking, which again just makes me wonder, what is the point of this? Why does this even exist? And at the end of the day, if there's people on social media saying this is wonderful, Jesus, you'd be ripping your panties off to try this then, because this is far superior to that, you know what I mean? So I don't know. There's no comparison. And you sometimes wonder, why? You know, there's a whole world out there, go and try it, you know. You might like it, you know. So yeah, but I notice a difference between the Longmans and the Holdens as well. Well, first thing I noticed about the Holdens is it tries to go down the wrong hole. It was a bit kinky. So, there's a flavour to this that just makes it quite distinct. I would say Holden's has a kind of, a bit like what Fuller's has got. Fuller's has a slight kind of, how would you say it, a kind of a character tone that has through their beers. Holden has the same. And I think it's to do with the hops they're using. And if I remember rightly, Holden's is just basically all Fuggles. They're Fuggles Daft. And that's what you do notice when you try different Holden's beers, which I've obviously been doing previously. And I do notice that there's this accent flavour that's always there, and it's because it's a Fuggles. And that's what you're tasting with that. But they're relying on the Fuggles to give you the bitterness. It is giving you some bitterness, it is, and you're getting it at the back end. But problems with Fuggles is it can go slightly coriander on you, it can go slightly kind of soapy at the back end if you put too much in. So they managed to get the balance right, but the problem is that also kind of restricts how much bitterness you can really get from a Fuggles, because if you go too much to get that bitterness kind of elevated, then you risk the chance of the old kind of soapy dishwater kind of effect at the back end as well. Whereas what I get with the Green Goddess or Fuller's beers in general, I do get this kind of slightly golden syrupy kind of sweetness, and it doesn't feel natural. It doesn't feel like it's coming from the malt. It feels like the sweetness is sweeter than this one. Out of all these 3, this is the sweetest by quite some margin. I'm not going to say it's overly sweet, but if you get it between 3 out of 3 bitters, this really is quite distinctly more sweet than the other 2. But it doesn't feel as if it's all coming from the malt. It feels like there's kind of an additional sweetness that's been added to it. And it does give you the feel as if there's kind of probably inverted sugars or something else that's been added, glucose or whatever. And it does feel a wee bit kind of, a little bit more gassy than the other 2. But I'm just trying to pick up the bitterness, because I can taste the Fuggles, but they stand out because I can taste the Fuggles in the mid-tongue, and I can feel it ramping up, getting there, and that's their main kind of accent flavour, their main kind of raison d'etre, is that they really do go down the route of the Fuggles. Holdens aren't big ones for really kind of doing a big mix of hops. They are kind of, well, even just tells you, doesn't it? Yeah. Pure golden colour with a subtle yet delicate aroma of English Fuggles combined with classic Maria Orta. So it's a classic Maria Orta kind of malt. But you're tasting the Fuggles. They've gone all out in the Fuggles side. They're not going to do a mixture of hops, which again is fine. I mean, it's a nice beer. But you've got to be careful, because if you use too much, you get that, like I say, you get the soapiness. But they haven't got that. But by doing that, they've got the balance right, but they're kind of missing out on some of the kind of additional bitterness they could get if they introduced, you know, a more bittering hop and things like that. But they could also change some of the other kind of flavours of the beer as well. So it's all one, but they feel that a good, honest kind of blend of Maris Otter malt and Fuggles hops, which is 2 kind of traditional ingredients to use in traditional English ales, works absolutely fine, and it does. It works absolutely fine. This one, you can tell there's a little bit more to it with the Longmans. Like I said, there's more malt, and there's a kind of 2 stages to the hops. You get some hoppy flavours in the mid-tongue, and then you get the kind of hoppiness, kind of bitterness at the back end. And it does feel like it's at least 2 different hops. And I'm saying that because just the way the kind of hoppy tones are in the mid-tongue, that could be 1, maybe 2 hops in there, and then they've got a slightly different hop at the back end for the bittering. It'd be quite interesting. Does it even list then what they do? Not really. I'd probably put it down below anyway, but it feels like there's at least maybe, there's definitely 2 hop varieties in this, might be 3, and I suspect it could be 3. And because of that, it just makes it slightly more balanced, because you're not relying on the one hop to provide something in the mid-tongue and then also provide something at the back end. It's done, and you can guarantee, and I'm just picturing how they're actually going to brew it, because there will be secondary hopping. There will be a dry hop situation going on with this bitter. You just know it. And just how the flavour profiles are. And it just makes it more interesting, because it means that with the different hops, you can get away with getting a little bit more malt in it. You can see, and you can actually go for a little bit stronger malt as well. And you can see that in the colour. It's the darkest one. It's still very sessionable, still very drinkable. But with the kind of slightly heavier, darker malt, it can support the different hops at different parts of the actual beer. So as the case is, it can support at the mid-tongue, but there's also enough there to support a bittering hop at the back end. And just overall, it just feels more balanced. This feels a little bit more simple, but I don't say it in a bad way, because at the end of the day, it is following a kind of, you know, age-old kind of recipe between these two. I mean, Fuggles and Marisota, very popular in the kind of south as a kind of a partnership. And I'm not going to say that's a bad thing. It feels a little bit more simplified, but again, it's not a bad thing, and it works. This one, it just feels a little bit more mature, a little bit more developed. And they've thought about it and they think, well, we need to actually up the malt and the kind of increase the kind of intensity of the malt. I mean, you can add more malt, but eventually you'll get a flavour flatline. So you can add as much of the same malt again, but it's not going to give you any more malty flavour. It's going to flatline, and your malty flavours are just going to sit there and it's not going to get any more. All you will do is just, you know, lengthen the fermentation time and obviously increase the alcohol production. So that's all you're really going to do. You're not really, I mean, it's like anything. Once you've hit saturation, you can't go past it. So what you have to do is you have to up the malt. So you have to go to maybe a darker malt to try and increase, which obviously brings in slightly different malty flavours in its own right and things like that. So yeah. This feels that to cope with the additional hops and the multiple hops, they've had to up the ante on the malt front, which I don't see that as a bad thing. Because it's still very, very drinkable, very easily drinkable. But like I say, there's a little bit more to it. This is a little bit more complex. Still sessionable, easy drinking and everything else, but it just feels there's a bit more to it. A bit more complexity to it. This is a more simplified recipe, but still nice in its own right. But if you want nice, complex malty flavours, you're not going to get it from this. You're just going to get quite, you know, kind of slightly one-dimensional malty flavours, but they work. And the same with the hops. It's slightly more one-dimensional, simplified, but still nice in its own right. But you lose a little bit at the back end. You lose a little bit of bitterness just because they're working with a single hop. And this one, well, all it is getting is like, it's a light beer with not much flavour, and you're getting kind of golden syrupy tones that don't actually feel attached to the beer. And for a hoppy beer, it's not really that hoppy. In fact, it's kind of distinctly lacking hop, especially as a bitter. And yeah, so on that basis, how would I rank them? Well, I would say the Longmans, for me, is the winner. It's a more complex beer. There's a bit more to it. Still very sessionable, very easy drinking. But if you like beers with a bit more complex malt, if you like a beer with a little bit more complex in the hops, with a nice kind of separation of bitterness compared to the mid-tongue, then for me this is the better beer. But if you like a beer that's more kind of simplified, following just kind of good time-honoured tradition, and yeah, a bit one-dimensional in the malt, a bit one-dimensional in the hop side of it, but still has an okay level of bitterness at the back end, and overall it just feels like a very clean beer. Very sessionable, very drinkable, very clean, and overall it just epitomises a good honest bitter. Then this is what you should go for out of the three, and it is in number 2, but it's not that far away. I mean, I'm not going to say, I mean, yeah, I like this for all the right reasons, but I also like this for all the right reasons. And even though they're slightly different, they're both bitters, but they're they're taking a slightly different kind of outlook on what a bitter should be. They're both well brewed, both honest enough and everything else. That even with the Holdens, it's nice in its own right. And while I say that this is a better beer, I'm not going to say that this is a bad beer. This is a nice beer in its own right as well, but they're different. And this just has a little bit more to it. You feel that if you're paying your money, you get a bit more for your money than you're getting with this one. But I'd be happy with both. If I was sitting in a pub and either one of these were in the cask, I'd be very happy to have both. And I wouldn't feel that in any way I'd be missing out. Even though in the bottle, this is, for me, a better beer. Not by much, but it is a better beer. As for your Chiswick bitter, I honestly really don't know why this exists, but what is the point of this? I know it's a case as though it was originally a beer before basically it was shelved or put out to pasture, whatever you want to call it, you know. It was just a case, so they're now bringing it back from nostalgia value, and people basically think, oh, I remember that beer, it was lovely and that type of stuff, and and then they taste it and think, shit, what the fuck have they done to it? And it feels that way. It feels more, this feels more manufactured than brewed, and it does start to have the kind of tones of a corporate brewery rather than a traditional English brewery. And I think that's probably the best way to describe Fuller's right now. Fuller's have lost their way, and I don't think it's to do with the personnel at Fuller's, and I don't think it's to do with the original recipes, because the original recipes, what they were doing previously and what they're doing now, is two different things. And I think that's down to it now becoming more of a corporate brewery. Asahi is basically, they want you to brew to keep the accountants happy. They don't want you to brew anymore to keep the drinkers happy. And this is what it feels like. This feels like a beer that's, you know, it's now a beer to kind of keep the accountants happy. It's not a beer to keep the drinkers happy. And even there might be people out there that are long-time Fuller aficionados and love Fullers and can't see past Fullers, which okay, that's fine. But they've got to kind of be honest with themselves. There's been quite a lot of change. I used to quite like Fullers. Not that I liked every one of their beers, but what I did like in the past was, even when they were initially bottled by Asahi, you could still appreciate the quality of the beer. Even though you might not like the beer, but you can still appreciate the quality. And over the years, and especially say over the last 2 to 3 years, they've fallen away quite badly. There's been quite a distinct change in them. I haven't been a regular Fuller's drinker so over the years, so I've noticed the change between the kind of 5 years ago, 3 years ago, and now. You know, I've noticed that there's, well, even say 6, 3, and now there's been a slope of going down in quality and it just kind of changing. Now, maybe long-term drinkers have maybe noticed that happening earlier on. I wasn't picking it up maybe about 5 or 6 years ago. I noticed there was a slight change 3 years ago, and I've noticed an even bigger change now. And I've also noticed that certain beers have been taken off the availability list, is probably the best way. So I mean, one of the better beers was probably Bengal Lancer. That's now gone. For whatever reason, it's gone. And you think, well, if they're taking one of their better flavoured beers off the market, then you'd have to kind of ask yourself, is this brewery going in the right direction? And for me, it isn't. And yeah, I just feel that this is just a shadow of its former self. And whether the Czech bitter might have been better in years gone by, it certainly isn't now. And it'll be interesting to see the next time they launch it, where you still have the same people saying, oh, it's wonderful, oh, I've ordered so many, it's great, oh, push my frillings over it, it's great, oh, I've been waiting for this, oh, you know the same pricks are like a McRib from McDonald's. You think, that's just shit. Anyway, that's these type of people. I'll be interested to see if they're still going to say the same, because then I can really call them out and say, don't talk shit. I mean, seriously. Because I feel that the next incarnation of this one, 2, 3, maybe 4 years' time, I think it's going to even change again, and not for the better. So I just don't understand why. Yeah, I just feel that Fuller's is a corporate brewery, and that the beer is now starting to taste more manufactured than brewed with care, which is disappointing, but it seems to be the way of the world right now. It's all about making money, and it's amazing. All these companies and everything else, they're all desperate to make money, but they don't make the world better. All these people making all this money, and things are just getting worse. They're not getting better. Quality of life is going downhill. Aspirations, people's outlooks and everything else, they're all going down. And it just feels like it's a case as though that they all talk about the global economy. Well, what I will say about the global economy is it's not really lasted. It's not really kind of giving you anything kind of worthwhile. It's kind of lacking. Or left people lacking. I mean, I'd hate to be a young person nowadays, and that's why I think I can understand why the oldest boy wants to leave the UK, because the UK is so hell-bent, just like a lot of countries in Europe, and oh, the global economy, it's all that matters, the global economy. The only problem is, though, is like, when I used to work for the government, the first thing I learned from my work from the government is, you might follow the rules, but you're a fool if you think everybody else follows the same rules the same way as you. And this is the thing I always could understand, was the case is though, when we're part of the EU, and I've had some very kind of interesting meetings and conversations over the years with other officials from other countries. And at one point we were seeing the rules as rules. You follow them, no question, because of the rules. And at the end of the day, the British way is, if the rules in place, we follow the rules regardless, because that's the way it should be. If you're going to have rules in place, then a good, honest, civilised country will follow the rules. That's the normal way, and that's how our government used to work. But other governments in Europe weren't doing that. They would see them as guidelines, not as rules, and they would flout them and everything else, and would get away with it. This was the thing that used to get me. Certain countries would get away with flouting the rules. And, you know, the EU at the time would just ignore it, because, oh, well, it's just their way, you know. And your way is you follow the rules, mug. You know, and it's like that. And I've seen some dreadful situations and some things I've witnessed over the years. And yeah, and it's like that situation with the global economy. Just because you're following the rules and you're doing this and that, doesn't mean that all the other countries with this global economy are all following the same rules and playing the same game as you. Good example is China. Right now, for some strange reason, our media is saying, oh, well, you know, America's putting so many bad tariffs on China and all this type of stuff. Well, they're quite entitled to. China's been manipulating their currency for years. Their currency should be a heck of a lot higher on the international monetary exchange, but they purposely to actually keep it lower. That's one of their actual government policies, because the whole point is there's no point in being the manufacturer of the world if your prices are too high for manufacturing. So the whole idea is the reason why manufacturing from China is so cheap and undercuts everyone else is that they manipulate their currency, and they've been doing it for fucking years. I mean, decades, to keep it low, to keep it competitive. So they're always competitive. So at the end of the day, yeah, the Chinese currency doesn't give you much of an exchange rate on the open market. But that's what they want, because it just automatically means that anything produced there is always going to be cheaper. It's always going to undercut you. And yeah, and it's a false economy, because this is the thing is, as the Chinese economy has got bigger, you're thinking, well, the currency has to kind of react to that, but it never does. So yeah, so their economy is worth billions and billions, almost trillions of dollars and that type of stuff, but their currency never seems to react the same way, and you're thinking, well, it can't physically happen that way, it's just fucking nonsense, but just because they're manipulating it. Same other thing is to try and avoid certain tariffs. What they do is they make it and manufacture it in China, and then what they do is you use some of their Asian partners like Vietnam and Malaysia and Indonesia to basically ship it from there. So what they do is they ship it to there, and then they ship it out from there as if it's been manufactured there rather than manufactured in China, so they can avoid certain tariffs and all this. And of course these countries are allowed to do it because they get all kickbacks and all this type of stuff. And yeah, so there's a lot of kind of jiggery pokery going on. And this is the problem. We are trying to basically follow a system that's being manipulated by other countries, and I think it's just blind. It's just the blind leading the blind. At the end of the day, we have to face up to saying that the global economy doesn't actually really work, and there has to be a balance. You can't be all manufacturing, because you've seen how Germany gets affected by that and how fluctuations affect Germany, because they're just, their biggest part of their economy is based on manufacturing. Whereas the UK, we've gone the other way, we're more service based and everything else, and yeah, it's just ridiculous. Whereas we need more of a balance. In the UK, we need a little bit more manufacturing, and we need to get that at balance. But it's hard to get that if we're leaving it as an open playing field between Europe and obviously countries in Asia. At the end of the day, we also have to have that little bit of protectionism, and at the end of the day, we just have to make things a little bit more. And you'll say, well, at the end of the day, well, if you basically raise your tariffs, they'll raise their tariffs. That's very true. But if you're more buying, if you're basically more of a buyer in the market rather than a seller, then tariffs don't really affect you so much. If you're more of a seller than a buyer, then tariffs are going to hurt you more in the long run, because at the end of the day, your economy is based on that. So that's what it feels like, and it feels like this is more of a global economy pint. These feel as a bygone traditional pint. And for me, I value them a heck of a lot more, because they're worth a lot more. So number one, very close behind number two. So it's Longmans, they're Holdens, and really quite far behind is the Fuller's Globalised Accountancy Chiswick Bitter. Anyway, thanks for watching. Cheers. And bye for now.